James, you're 50 years of age. Tell us your whole experience of this and your battle to have this accepted.
Well, I write about men's health issues quite a lot, and I was having the symptoms which I felt were quite similar to the menopause. I consulted my male friends, none of whom had heard about the andropause or the man-opause, as it's known.
And did they kind of laugh at you? Or?
Well, they just didn't believe it was something that was real. And I spoke to my female friends, and they all laughed and thought, well, that's our thing. You know, that's not something that men particularly suffer from. So I just started exploring it as something, and I was having these various issues to do with anger, and I was exhausted a lot of the time, and I felt...
So your mood had changed?
Yeah, my mood had certainly changed. I was becoming quite irrationally angry about things, and I spoke to a lot of my male friends about this, and they were also, you know, from age 40 upwards, were having similar sorts of problems.
So once you did start talking to your male friends, one by one they start going, well, actually, yes, I have been feeling a bit like that.
Yeah, and the thing with men is they hate to talk about this stuff. They don't like to admit that they're feeling down or they're feeling angry because it's a sign of weakness, so they'll bottle everything up.
And I just soldier on, and I'm so happy all the time. No one would have an idea. No one would have a clue.
Was it affecting your libido?
See, doesn't even listen. Doesn't even listen.
Was it affecting your libido, James? Because that's, you know, a lot of women talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, it can... I mean, because you're feeling exhausted a lot of the time and tired, yeah, I suppose your energy levels are so much lower that it's just harder to get, you know,
and you have
in
a
the
partner.
mood. Yeah.
So how was she coping? Was she kind of going, oh, don't be ridiculous with the menopause?
No, I mean, she's very sensitive about it, and she's quite knowledgeable about medical issues, and she was suggesting that it could be something like that, you know, and not to dismiss anything. So it's very easy to sort of dismiss those feelings as just either depression or you're a grumpy old man. But actually what Marion does is she does a full blood test, and she tests you for everything and your hormones. And if your hormone levels are dropping, then that is an issue in itself, and it's not necessarily to do with depression.
OK, you went to see Marion, and I think it's fair to say that you feel Marion turned you around.
I think so, yeah. She's very thorough in her diagnosis and her investigation of how you're feeling, and it's not just to do with your mental health, it's to do with your physicality, your lifestyle. All these things play in on how you're feeling.
So we all have a role to play in this, Marion. So do you approach this the same way as the approach is for many women, which is hormone replacement?
Oh, I approach it exactly the same way, but before I do anything like that, I really have to get to know my patient and the person I'm treating. So I have to exclude a lot of, you know, maybe other causes. And in a case like James, or I've had quite a lot of patients, male patients, when I've excluded everything, then it's fairly obvious that, and the testosterone levels are low, I would replace with testosterone or with DHA or a combination of both. But each patient is totally case by case. Each patient is unique and each treatment is unique, but it is with hormones.
Marion, it's interesting. I'm just looking at some of the comments coming in here from our viewers, predominantly female at the moment, and, you know, they're saying, really, you know, anything we can do, men can do it more dramatically. Menopause, is it just like man flu? You know,
well, do you know what gets me?
What
gets me? No, what gets me? No, exactly.
How do you change that view?
I could not sit here and criticise, nor could John, any female condition
you're right.
in that way. So it absolutely amazes me that there's not some sort of empathy or some sort of realisation that if this happens to one species of human being, it obviously the same cycle has to happen to the other one.
And no wonder men are feeling that they can't come forward and admit to these things, because there's a lot of guilt around it and a lot of prejudice. Women will often laugh or criticise or just not take it seriously, and that's really important that men stand up and, you know, and actually go out there and if you're feeling miserable, if you're feeling low, if you're feeling depressed, go to your doctor.
Because the thing is, Marion, just final word with you, if you go to your doctor and you describe the sort of symptoms that James was describing there, they may say it's a bit of depression or it's a bit of inflammation or it's a bit of whatever. Overall, surely the approach has to be different. We've got to maybe assume that it's the menopause, do that blood test and check out those hormones before treatment comes into play.
I think that's hugely important, that we absolutely by men and by women, we have to check hormone levels, because too often people are told that they're depressed, and it's not, they're diagnosed with depression, and that's not the case. And nobody wants to be depressed, and they want their vitality back. And with balanced hormones, you know, they can really have it back. And I think every doctor needs to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Doctor, appreciate
Thank
your
you.
take on things.
Fascinating.
And
It is
James, thank you so
fascinating.
much for talking about it, because it's lovely to get it out there and get the debate going. And you're feeling good? You're feeling better?
Feeling much better, much lighter, much less anxious, much less sort of irritable.
Going to get you on some of those.
You need some.
Going to get you on some of those hormones.